Welcome back to the Black Diamond Podcast, soon to be the 4 to 7 pod. We are really in the final waning moments of Black Diamond as we know it. Before the rebrand comes. Um, here's hoping that Black Diamond can go out on top with the Yankees World Series title, but before we get to that, obviously our last episode we talked all about the Yankees and the Mets and the league championship series, but we got a nope season to continue. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the Middle Initial Podcast channel, and all the socials on the ticker down below. But yeah, let's continue this nope season. So we are now in the because the old COVID bug struck me about a month ago. The way we kind of set it up was that one league is kind of behind the other. So we're going to be doing the ALDS and the NLCS in this episode. And if we do happen to agree on on both ALDS winners, then we might just do the ALCS as well, just to get everything caught up for the World Series of the what would you even
what
call
do we even call this? I'm like, I was putting the little mini bracket together on my notes app, and I'm like, can we really call it the World Series when it's two of the worst teams? Or like, no, we'll just call it the finals. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we also have time to brainstorm if we want to call it something. Maybe the Fail Classic.
That's good. That is good. I like that.
Yeah, so this is all leading up to the Fail Classic, the road to the Fail Classic. But we will start in the ALDS. We got two matchups. We got the 2024 Chicago White Sox, fresh off of breaking the record for most losses in a season ever, versus the 2002 Tampa Bay Devil Rays. So let's get into it with that. We also have the 2018 Baltimore Orioles and the 2003 Detroit Tigers. So let's do. You want to do the White Sox Devil Rays first?
So, what's interesting about this one, Chris, is that obviously, yes, the White Sox did set the record. They were god awful. That being said, you look at that lineup. They have Luis Robert, who is still he's no worse than one of the 10 best center fielders in the game right now, but probably is higher than 10, I would think. There are still teams that I'm sure will be interested in him when we get to the offseason here. They have Garrett Crochet, who teams were banging down the door for around the deadline, trying to make that happen. And went 6-12 this year, but certainly pitched a lot better than that. Had an ERA of 3.58 pitching with this team behind him. His FIP was 2.69. So even the metrics say, yeah, he was even better than that. They had Eric Fetty in their rotation for 21 starts. Teams were asking for him down the stretch in the playoff drive, and with good reason. Michael Kopech was their closer for at least half it, up until the deadline. Now he's going to pitch in the World Series. So there are pieces here. There is genuine talent with this team. Now, it gets pretty thin quickly, but there are genuine difference maker guys on this roster for the 2024 White Sox. Yeah. We discussed the 2002 Devil Rays the last time on our show here, and they have Randy Wynn and rookie Carl Crawford. Now, beyond that, it's thin, but it's okay. Yeah. The White Sox had pieces of something here, and they had Eloy Jimenez at the start of the year. They thought he was something. it turned out to be nothing. But like the White Sox, they weren't supposed to be as bad as they were this year. I think people knew they were going to stink. I don't think anyone had any thought when this year started that they were going to get the record. They weren't supposed to be this bad. The 2002 Devil Rays were supposed to be that bad. And
Yeah.
it's a real toss up here. I know people are, the recency bias is like, oh, yeah, well, of course it's the White Sox.
Yeah, the recency bias plus the plus like the actual holding the actual record for most losses.
Yeah. Like people are going to look at that and go, well, they just set the record. How could it not be? And I think it's a little closer than most people would think.
Yeah. Yeah, if looking at the looking at the the Pythagorean theorem that Baseball Reference has, they have the White Sox as a 48 win team, and they have the Rays as a 58 win team. So they actually have the Devil Rays being slightly better than they actually were.
With the White Sox being considerably better than what they actually were.
Yeah. Yeah. And like at first, like I kind of thought like what you kind of just said out loud, like, oh yeah, like I'm probably just gonna pick the White Sox as like the worst team to advance because of the fact that they do hold that record. However, now that you kind of break it down, the fact that the White Sox do have some talented players on that team. Like people wanted Luis Robert at the deadline. Same with Garrett. Crochet. He was someone. He's someone that if he pitched for, I feel like the Cy Young is like a very individual award, but I think that being on a better team might have held some weight for him as far as like being a candidate for the Cy Young.
He struck out 209 guys in 146 innings. And I know that in the last month of the year, like they were pulling him after 4 or 5 innings, even if he was throwing well. So you imagine imagine if they were just regular bad and it's all right, well, we'll give you some run. Now, I know in baseball now, they probably still would have been careful with him. But even if they were just regular bad, they might have let him go out a little further than they did. Like, could have been close to like 230, 240. Like, and if they're regular bad, maybe he gets a few more wins. And I mean, like, people get crazy now about like a 10-9 guy winning the Cy Young when DeGrom did it. If they gave it to a 6-12 guy, like they might burn down the sport.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's
this is actually good. This is actually this is actually tougher than I thought it was going to be. And I think that for me at least I think the White Sox, like at least on paper, I think the White Sox might actually be a better team than the 2002 Rays, and I think I might be picking I think I'm going to pick the 2002 Devil Rays to advance. And for me, I think the biggest tiebreaker is the pitching. I think that this White Sox team, despite how terrible historically they were, I think they had a lot better pitching than the 2002 Devil Rays did. And I think, and like they had Tommy Pham on the team for like 5 minutes or a little more than 5 minutes, almost half the season.
Yeah.
And, they rightfully traded him to, somewhere, or I don't even know if they traded him or if they waived him, but they rightfully let him go so that he could, go to a contending team. Luis Robert, he bats 224, and he doesn't have a whole lot of power, but he's still pretty talented, and he was definitely someone who was in demand at the deadline. Like he's someone like if the Yankees would have traded for him, I would not have been upset because
there were Philly fans who were like, what if we had just gotten him? Like, we needed a left fielder. Imagine if we had done that.
Yeah, and I mean, Eric Fetty, he's another very good pitcher. Obviously, and then even like looking at the bullpen, I would say that the White Sox bullpen this year slightly better, definitely a little bit better at least than the 2002 Devil Rays. So, I think this is a series that goes all 5 games, but I got the Devil Rays losing 2-3 and advancing to the ALCS.
Man, who saw that coming when we started this? I mean, the 2024 White Sox were like the basis for this whole thing starting, and they're out on their first. No, they shouldn't have got the bye.
Yeah,
that bye will throw you out of rhythm.
Yeah. All that rest made them play better. So you're picking the Rays too?
I think I'm taking the Rays too.
Wow. Okay. That's so we got an upset. We have an upset. The 2002 Tampa Bay Devil Rays are going to the ALCS for a chance to play in the Fail Classic. And then we have the 2018 Baltimore Orioles and the 2003 Detroit Tigers.
So here's another one where, the 2003 Tigers actually might have the leg up here because that Baltimore team was bad. Now, here's the hang up. Do we include Manny Machado with this team? Because he played 96 games. I believe he got traded the day after the All-Star game because it was the Orioles basically were like, we can't have nobody there. Like, we have to have someone represent us. And he was the only guy that was there, obviously. But he played 96 games, hit 315 for him, like he was in peak form. If he's played over half the games, he kind of has to be in here, right?
Yeah. 96, that's definitely enough, in my opinion.
I look at the rest of this team. Adam Jones is in there. He played 145 games out of 732 OPS. He slugged 15 home runs. Trey Mancini's in there. He played 156 games out of 715 OPS. He had 24 home runs. Jonathan Scope's in there with a 720 OPS. Jonathan Scope was a useful player for a long time in the league. Mark Trumbo's in there with a 764 OPS.
Yeah. Trumbo. I mean, Trumbo, he wasn't like prime Mark Trumbo at this point, but he had a decent year.
I believe this might have been Cedric Mullins' rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. Cedric Mullins got his start on this team. Jonathan Villar's in here, stole 20 bases, had a 729 OPS.
Jock Peterson's brother, Chase.
No, different spelling. Anthony Santander's in here. I think that might have been his rookie year. Oh no,
I think. Santander. The great Pedro Alvarez was on this team. Actually,
man,
I believe there was a game where I think it was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was 17. But I just remember a game where it was like an April game between the Yankees and the O's in I think it was 2018, where Pedro Alvarez hit a home run off of us in the top of the 11th inning, and it made me mad because all my Pirates friends laughed at me at the time.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. Picture inning game against the Yankees.
It was at Yankee Stadium, and
do I have it? I think I did. Santander. No, maybe it was the other one then. April 6th.
April 6th.
No, it's Chris. Maybe it's a different one. Hold on here. No. Let me check that one more time. So the April 8th game, Danny Valencia and Santander homer, and that one extras. And then the one on April 6th, Machado hit 2. And there it is. Pedro Alvarez off of Jonathan Holder in the 14th inning.
That's right.
I think
that was in 2018, right?
yeah, and that might have been the game I think Kev talks about where he was sitting behind like a heckler for the entire game. I'll have to check with him on that one. But yeah, Jonathan Holder was in that game. Who started?
Yeah.
Sabathia started. Kevin Gossman started for Baltimore. Oh yeah, that's right.
Damn.
Kevin Gossman was an Oriole.
Oh, so Kevin
came up with
Nestor Cortez was on this team.
Really?
So, yeah, I think he was a rookie. He was 23. But
did you guys get him in a trade, or was that just a flat out signing?
Man, that's a good question, to be honest. I think we may have traded for him. I actually don't even remember.
Okay, so here it is. The Orioles got him prior to this season in the Rule 5 draft. And then April 13th, 2018, Baltimore returns him back to the Yankees, which is what you do with a Rule 5 pick if you don't want him. And then November 2019, traded by the Yankees to Seattle for future considerations, granted free agency after 2020, re-signed with the Yankees in 21.
Yeah, so I guess he was the future consideration.
Yeah, player to be named later. We'll just take him back.
Yeah, there have been times where that actually happened in trades where someone gets traded for a player to be named later, and then they just end up being the player to be named later. They just go back. John Means was also on this team, I believe, also as a rookie.
Let me see who are the main starters for these guys? Dylan Bundy, Andrew Kashner, Alex Cobb, Kevin Gossman. Actually wasn't that bad, in all honesty.
Yeah, it really wasn't like terrible by any means.
Tanner Scott's on this team. I think he might have been a rookie. I didn't realize the Orioles had Tanner Scott. That's a tough one, considering they needed a closer. How did they? So traded by the Orioles with Cole Sulser to the Marlins for. I don't recognize any of these names. Maybe the Orioles should just stop trading with the Marlins. It doesn't seem to go too well for them.
Yeah, like what could you possibly be gaining? There's far more to lose than there is to gain from that sort of thing. They also had Fernando Fixture, or no, I'm looking at this is the Tigers. The Tigers had Fernando Fixture, Hat Rodney.
Chris Tillman's in here, although my God, he had an ERA of 10. Oh, Zach Britton's still on this team. That's right.
Yeah, he is.
So do we include? I mean,
Darren O'Zay.
I guess technically, if we're including Machado on here, we probably have to include Britton too.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, because Britton was dealt like at the deadline, right? Or he went to the Yankees. I think
he did. Let me see. What was that? What did that deal end up being? That was. Oh, yeah, July 2018 for Cody Carroll, Josh Rogers, and Dylan Tate. Yuck.
Yeah. I feel like that trade was kind of an L for both sides because Zach Britton wasn't that good for us.
Wow. I didn't know there were Yankee fans that felt that way.
Or I just remember in the playoffs, I feel like he had a few meltdowns in the playoffs that year.
Huh.
But
again, there are semblances of the good teams the Orioles were prior to 2018.
Yeah.
And then semblances of the team they ultimately became.
Planting seeds for what they would become.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I definitely have to go with the Tigers as the worst team to advance.
Man, so the two of the worst the two teams that inspired this don't even make the LCS. What a stunner.
Yeah, that's baseball, Susan.
So, the 2002 Devil Rays versus the 2003 Tigers in the ALCS.
Yep. So you're picking the Tigers to advance as well.
I am.
All right. The Tigers advance. All right, let's do while we're just on the subject, should we just stay in the American League and do do the
let's do that. Yeah.
All right. So looking at the 2002 Devil Rays versus the 2003 Tigers. This also makes it easier as I type the team names, as I type these team names into Baseball Reference to do less navigating and just stay in the ALCS. All right. So, man, this is where it gets hard. Shit.
I am just now learning for the first time that the 2003 Tigers actually had a 33-year-old Steve Avery on their team. Wow. That had to be the end of the line for him. I didn't know Steve Avery was still in the league like after 2000. That's wild. Oh yeah, in 2001 or 2002 did not play. Yeah, he hadn't pitched since 99 prior to that year. He made 19 relief appearances for the 03 Tigers with an ERA of 5.63.
I'll be damned.
It was growing up, like obviously like those 90s Braves teams had Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine. But there was a stretch where Steve Avery was every bit as good as that. I mean, obviously he's not a Hall of Famer either, but Steve Avery for a while was being held in that same regard of, like this guy is an upper echelon starter. And if you see him in a playoff series, you got to be worried. But it fell apart fast for him. Yeah, I look at this 03 Tigers staff, and it's Mike Maroth and Jeremy Bonderman ultimately survived this and were a part of the 06 team that made the World Series. But Mike Maroth lost 21 games in this particular season. Jeremy Bonderman lost 19.
Yeah.
Adam Pinero went 1-12.
Yeah. I mean, they were smart to like hang on to them. I mean, they're only like in their early to mid 20s.
Jeremy Bonderman was exactly 20 on this team. So this was literally like sink or swim. We want to see the talent you got.
Yeah. Yeah. And he sunk, but he didn't drown.
No. Mike Maroth had 87 strikeouts in 193 and a third innings. That is dastardly.
Yeah. But I am I think for me, I think that both of these teams are pretty bad, but I think I give the edge as far as I give the edge to the Tigers being the worst team. So I would pick the Tigers to go to the Fail Classic. And for me, I think the tiebreaker. So the Rays lineup might be a little bit better, the Devil Rays lineup, but for me, just the real discrepancy and why I pick the Tigers is the pitching. It's just looks a lot worse than Tampa's pitching.
See, this is actually closer than I would have expected. So I look at the Rays lineup amongst their regulars. They had Carlos Pena at this point. Hit 18 homers at a 772 OPS. This is the 2003 Tigers. They had Craig Monroe, who hit 23 home runs for them that year. Turns out might actually be a hell tier individual. Things we've learned this year. Alex Sanchez stole 44 bases. They had Bobby Higginson, who was an all-star level talent, hit 14 home runs this year. He had a 235 average. Yeah, Dimitri Young, who was still hitting 297. He had 29 homers and 85 RBI. Like, you had Omar Infante on this team. There was, again, not exactly the most loaded lineup, but there's right. You look at the 0-2 Devil Rays lineup, and it's, we mentioned Carl Crawford and Randy Wynn and
I forget if I mentioned this last time we discussed this team, but they had John Flaherty on this team.
Oh, yeah. Backing up Toby Hall.
Yeah. I remember Toby Hall, he sucked, but for some reason he'd always kill the Yankees.
Oh, it was always funny is that the Devil Rays, before they got good, they were good for 1, maybe 2 series a year, and it would always be in New York. It would never be in St. Pete, but it would be in New York, where all of a sudden they just turned into the Big Red Machine, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. Or I think like in 2004, like when the Yankees I think it was 2004, I think the Yankees first got A-Rod, and they had their opening. The Yankees and Devil Rays opened the season in Japan, and I remember them like kicking our ass in Japan. So yeah, they never kick our ass in St. Pete, but in New York or Japan, they'd whoop us.
Interestingly enough, there's actually a couple of future members of the Giants mini dynasty in here. Andres Torres, who was on the first one, because then I remember Andres Torres was on the field for the Mets when Johan threw his no-hitter, but he's on this team. Cody Ross is on this team. Yeah, there's some guys who end up having a career after this. AJ Hinch is in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some fun. I mean, we've mentioned Fernando Rodney, who had a very strange career. Like when they show you like the list of greatest closer seasons, like I know what Clase just did was up there. Obviously, 03 Gagne's on there. You know, pick a Dennis Eckersley season, pick any Rivera season you want. But 2012 Fernando Rodney being in the middle of that, like that is what the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas ass season? Like Fernando Rodney was that good for a whole year? What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts.
I think we might have to go to a poll here, if only because I'm not sure I'm real confident on having a team advance here, because the Rays certainly have their weaknesses, but I could certainly see a case where if you pointed to one particular category, you can go on the strength of this, I think they would win the match, not necessarily advance, but win between the two teams. I think there are certain things that you could point to with this Tigers team that you could say they were the better. Like they would be the team that win this matchup. I think this one is a toss-up. I think this one we might have to go to a poll to.
So you would take the 2002 Rays by like a slight margin.
Yeah, I think this is too close to call.
All right.
This is the Olympic one. This is the Olympic 100-meter dash this past year, where like 5 guys were all crossing the line at the same time.
Yeah, that's what this one is. This is the 2000 presidential election. Got to recount the votes.
That reminds me, I will be turning into Noah Lyles after the World Series. The world champions of what?
But yeah, anyway, so this one's going to a poll. 2002 Devil Rays versus the 2003 Detroit Tigers. Make sure you vote in it. Please, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you follow us, if you're in our Discord, please participate in these polls. Only 2 people voted in the last poll, and that's fucking pathetic. I'm sorry.
Also, if you see this poll and you vote in it, retweet it. Get the word out there.
Retweet the polls too. Get the word out. You know, retweet the episodes. That way, you know, the people, your friends, people you know, can see it too, and they can participate too. You know. And this isn't even me being like, oh, please. This isn't even me like, you know, begging for engagement or being like, oh, please, like, you know, please care about what we're doing online, because I could care less if you care what we're doing online or not, honestly. But just we need more than 2 people voting in these polls.
Yeah,
is kind of what it comes down to. I want this to be I want this to be like more fun, and it'll be more fun if like more people vote, especially now that we're really getting down to the nitty gritty. We're in the, you know, this is the fail classic we're talking about. Get out and vote. God damn it. This is the most important vote you'll ever make in your life, especially in the next 2 weeks.
I don't co-sign that.
I'm kidding about the last part, obviously, but
I was going to throw this to you. Is I think once we put this up, obviously we'll let it simmer for a few days. But I'm thinking,
maybe a little longer.
I'm going to think for the poll. Yeah, do we want to leave the window open I don't know if the max we can do is 24 hours, but if there's an option,
No, you could definitely do it longer. I think the max is like a week. I just did it for like a day or two because I figured I think I put the poll out like yesterday and we were recording today, so that's why. So part of it's my fault, I take ownership in this too.
rigged ballot.
We have to do rigged election. We have to do more, but we have to do more to earn your votes. So that's on me, and I'll take ownership of that. But yeah, we need more. Need more votes. We need to make it more interesting when it goes to the polls.
By the way, is the Fail Classic sponsored by Four Seasons Total Landscaping? I just
Was that the same? Was that the landscaping company that like Rudy Giuliani did that like press conference?
The very same.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. That's what I thought. I'll give Rudy a call. Maybe I'll see him at a Yankee game. I'm sure he'll be there.
Those are your people.
Unfortunately. But yeah, moving on to the NLCS, we got the 62 Mets and the 2002 Milwaukee Brewers.
Boy, the 2002 Brewers really went on a surprise run here because I don't think they get mentioned nearly as much. I think people look more at the Devil Rays from that year because that was in the middle of their first decade where they were so bad for a while there.
Yeah.
And even some of the other teams in the NL, I think they kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I think especially because the Brewers were in the middle of that stretch where they were just a team. They weren't even necessarily, I don't think they got the number one pick out of this.
Yeah, they're. I think the Devil Rays finished with a worse record. So yeah, I think they picked second.
So it wasn't even like they benefited all that much from this. Although, would be interested to see who did the Brewers take in that next draft in 2003. Okay, they got Ricky Weeks from it. They picked him second. So okay,
yeah.
Okay, not an upper deck home run of a, but like he was an all-star. He was good for a long time for them. So
yeah, the MLB drafts are such crapshoots.
Yeah, like I think like if you get a solid starter out of a top 10 or out of a first round pick, you did well.
Yeah,
that was a thing for a long time with Met fans. Is the 2011 draft is probably the best draft of the 21st century. And they took Nimmo with, I think, the 11th pick. And it was controversial at the time because it was like, okay, he's from Wyoming and they don't even have organized high school ball there. Like, what are we doing? And Jose Fernandez went, I think, 2 or 3 picks later. And there was a multiple year stretch where it's like, we really passed on Jose Fernandez for this.
Yeah.
Worked. Now, like, Brandon Nimmo's never going to be a Hall of Famer or anything. He's probably going to end up spending his whole career with this team. I think they did pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, if you just get like a decade plus starter out of your first round pick, like, hey, if he's a multi-time all-star, great. But if he's always contributing for you, that's a win.
That is in fact a win. Yeah. So looking at this matchup, I'd like to say I think the Brewers pitching, at least the starting pitching, I think the Brewers had a worse starting rotation than the 62 Mets. Both their bullpen, the Brewers probably had a better bullpen than the 62 Mets. And the lineup, looking at the lineup, the Brewers the Brewers had a better lineup. So I'm going to go with the 62 Mets advancing to the Fail Classic.
I think so. Yeah.
I think I kind of thought this was going to end up being the 62 Mets versus the 2024 White Sox. Like when we first did that, that's kind of where I thought we were going. So I mean, but yeah, it's interesting when you get into the nitty gritty of actually looking at these teams, and like really seeing like the fact that you could have these types of these types of like
This
upsets.
Brewers lineup has multiple guys with OPSs over 800. Actually, 3 guys. They had a third baseman named Tyler Houston. He had an 806 OPS. So, like, actually a legitimately halfway decent lineup, all things considered. I also do want to point out here, and this is just for entertainment.
Okay.
One of the guys who actually did play for the Brewers in this particular year is a guy named Izzy Alcantara. And if you're a baseball diehard, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Izzy Alcantara played in the minors. I think this was the year before. And pulled off maybe the greatest move in the history of baseball fights. If you've heard the name, you know exactly what I'm referencing. And you can go find this on YouTube. I can't remember if the pitcher hit him or threw at him. But his first move was to turn and kick the catcher square in the chest and then charge the mound, which was the smartest thing he could have done, because who's the first person that's going to get to you if you rush the mound? The catcher. And he's like, forget that.
Yeah, fuck that.
One-on-one. And
so
also,
so he kicked you in the chest and then charged the mound.
Also, it leaves you an extra 2 or 3 seconds because the entire infield's like, did he just kick the cat? And while everyone's frozen in shock, that gives you that extra little bit of time to go in there and whoop up on the pitcher. But there is video of that on YouTube. And every time I watch it, I'm like, that really happened. And no one's tried it since.
Yeah, I think
his baseball legacy is that.
Yeah, I think after that, I think they added like another unwritten rule to the book of unwritten rules. No kicking the catcher in the chest if you get beans. Like, run up to the pitcher and get held back like a man. But man, that's so funny. I mean, you got to think, like, did the catcher make the call for him to get hit?
That's true. I've never heard the full backstory on it.
Yeah, that's something they should do like a 30 for 30 on that.
I've always kind of respected the Torrey Hunter move of, all right, pitcher's gonna hit you. Guess what? Ball's right by you. Hit him.
Yeah.
Fight fire with fire.
Yep.
Especially if you're an outfielder, like or if you're really any major league player, you're supposed to have an arm on you.
Yeah.
Hit one back.
Very true. Very true. So we will have the 1962 Mets and versus TBD in the Fail Classic, which we will do next time we record. But thank you all for tuning in. This series has been this has been a lot of fun, and we will so make sure you vote for our American League FS American League Fail Series for the Fail Classic to see who gets to face the 62 Mets and get crowned the champion as the worst team ever.
And make sure you retweet if you do see and vote in the poll. Make sure to get the word out there.
Yeah, tell all your friends. Yeah, tell all your friends to vote. It's election season. This will be good practice for This will be good practice for when you have to actually go and vote.
Brought to you by your friends at Dominion.
Yeah. Clicking polls on Twitter, great way to get ready for the real thing. So get the vote, rock the vote, don't rock the vote, baby, and let's enjoy this World Series. And we will see you next time. Make sure you subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. Peace.